Hi there. So if you are watching this video, you must have exactly the same problem as I do have, or you're trying to do preventative maintenance on your vehicle, so you will not face this problem. Well, the problem is with humming noise coming out from the intermediate bearing, which is located on the left side drive axle half shaft. Well, it sounds pretty complicated, but it is not. But every single 4MATIC is having this intermediate shaft and having that bearing, which is supposed to be changed every 50 to 60,000 miles, regardless if it's making noise or not. And this is the one right here, small bearing, $50. This is the part number. All of the C, E class, S class, GLK, all of them using same part number, but you can also verify that with your dealer. Now, if you don't change it on time, if you ignore this instruction, then this bearing will get seized up and will damage your oil pan, because it's sitting on an oil pan, inside of the oil pan, aluminum oil pan. So, and that would be really expensive if you will have a damaged oil pan. Now, when I've been underneath of the vehicle, shaking my drive axle and the half shaft to see how bad it is, well, I knew that this is the one that making noise in my case, because I exceeded my mileage. My car is 75,000 miles, so I was supposed to do it 15,000 miles ago. So I knew that this is the problem, but I discovered that my motor mount is also leaking underneath of those 3 holes. This motor mount is filled with oil, and it has a sensor, by the way. I didn't have any check engine light, but this is the first sign. Probably if I would drive a little bit longer, this sensor would detect vibration and would send me a check engine light. I'm assuming, I don't know. But this is the part number of this motor mount. I hope you can see it. If the zoom is okay. Okay, well, anyway, I'm not sure which one is left, which one is right. Once I removed that one from the vehicle, I will compare it. So I bought 2 of them. Each one of them cost like 110 bucks. I also purchased a transmission mount, just in case. I might change it also once I'm going to be underneath of the vehicle, but we'll see. Maybe not this time. But I just wanted to mention about this motor mount. So the bolts has to be removed from the top, which is from under the hood. This is a 13mm bolt, and the best way would be to use a 20-inch extension and the wobble socket, 13mm wobble socket, and it will fit perfectly from under the hood, and you can remove it in 2 minutes. 2 bolts. Now, the middle bolt right here would be a 16mm head socket that you will need to, and this is the one that I used. This is a semi-deep 16mm socket with a swivel ratchet, because you will have some obstacles on your way from the air conditioned piping. And yeah, so 3-4 minutes and you will remove that 16mm. You can also use ratchet like this, as long as you can, it can swivel. But this is a 72 tooth ratchet, and this one is the same 72 tooth. Probably 100 tooth would be even better. Anyway, dealer is charging usually $5,500 to replace those 2 parts, including parts, but I don't see where those numbers came from, because this is only $50, this is 110 or 107. So they charging $550-300 for replacing those 2 parts. I'll try to do it myself. I might need to use some of the specialty tools I'll be showing you on my way. So let's go. Okay, well, next step, what I did, I raised my vehicle with this jack. This is my preferred choice that I have. Let me show you which one I'm using. This one is made in Denmark, AC hydraulics. Okay, this one is an excellent choice for this type of a low vehicle, and I just jacked it up by lifting up by this point. There is a special point on the middle. That's where you put this jack, and then after that, well, not after that, before that, I put my car on a parking brake, and I applied choke under my wheel, and then I use a jack stands with those special rubber paddings made specially for this model Mercedes. The brand is Powerflex, and part number PF40-860. It fit exactly this vehicle. It's not gonna move anywhere. So okay, now I remove the wheel, and there is a cap, protective cap. In my case, I use this sliding hammer, and I remove that protective cap. If you don't have such a puller, which is not really made for this application, but I guess it's pretty universal, because this is a bearing race puller, universal bearing race puller. This is the casing and the part number, so you can see if you want to buy one. So it can remove your race from the bearings if you will be working on one, or this cap. Anyhow, if you don't have such a puller, you don't want to invest, you will have this cap right here. You just need to find yourself a little pry bar, striking one with a striking cap, and little by little go all around until you hammer it out, pry it out without damaging, because this protective cap is pretty important. If you will damage one, the moisture will be getting into those splines, and you will have a hard time of removing your axle in a couple of years. Now next, I remove that bolt, which is E24 Torx. I have an impact socket, so that was easy in my case. But if you don't have an impact socket, and impact wrench, I mean, you still need the socket, but you can use a breaker bar and the socket, but the entire hub is going to spin. So here's a little tip. You need to put a big screwdriver, the thickest one that you have, inside of the brake disc. So when you will be loosening this nut, this screwdriver will be holding the brake disc against this bracket. It will not spin. And the same deal when you will be retightening later on. Okay, now next what I did is I removed this bracket right here. This is pretty easy. One nut on the bottom right here, 16 millimeter, and one bolt, E18, so from the inside. Once you remove that, no hammering needed, just slide it out. Pretty easy. Now next, what I did is I already loosened my ball joint, as you can see. Okay, so the ball joint, I have a special tool for that, which is a Hazard made in Germany, 779.29. It fits exactly my application, and without damaging boot. But if you don't have such a fancy tool, you don't want to spend so much money, I got it on the eBay as the rest of my tools for really cheap, like 25 bucks. Then simply remove that nut, which is going to be underneath, and start hammering with like 2-3 pounds of sledgehammer right here into this metal spot right here, and it will pop out. You're just gonna make some noise but that's all. It will pop out. Be gentle, not to damage any rubber boots. Now, my vehicle is equipped with the electronic sensor with the stability control. So this plastic lever is going to be on my way when I will be pulling out that axle. So I'm going to remove 2 plastic nuts, or this is metal nuts, probably metal, 10 millimeter, and lower it down this complete assembly. After that, I will be removing 2 bolts, Torx 18, from this strut and moving this entire assembly to the side, so I'll be able to pull out entire drive axle. So stay tuned. Okay guys, so I removed those 2 bolts. That was fairly easy, and I removed this bracket, 2 nuts, 10 millimeter nuts. Maybe your vehicle doesn't have that sensor, I'm not sure, but anyway, my axle is basically free. I can pull it out anytime, but I don't want to damage this rubber boot, so I don't want to pull it from here. I need to pull it as much as possible from the actual metal granite, which is this piece right here. That's where I want to pull it out from, but from that half shaft. But before I do that, let's go underneath. I'll show you how this all looks like underneath. Well, now I just wanted to show you that I put a block, so it will not be, there will not be any tension on any of the brake lines or electrical cables, so it's just sitting on the wood. Obviously I need to remove all of the 3 plastic covers from underneath of the vehicle, but this is fairly easy. Let me get the light. Okay, so underneath of the vehicle, okay, maybe it's a little bit, but this is the actual bearing right here. Right here I already removed this circlip, because I'll try to pull it all together with the half shaft, because this half shaft has a C-clip that connecting those 2 shafts together. So I'm not sure if it will pop out from the half shaft or it will come out with the entire bearing. We'll see about that. And maybe you can see right here, but I hope you can, the bottom of the motor mount is leaking, it's wet. So I don't have any other leaks from this engine except this motor mount, so I'll try to do it all in the same time. That's why I removed all of the plastic covering, so I can have access to the motor mount from here to pull it out. There's lots of room. I hope that I can grab it, but I will need to lift up the engine on this side and then lift up from the motor mount and pull it out. Should be straightforward procedure, we'll see. Stay tuned. Okay guys, so next I removed that circle clip, which is right here, as you can see. It was spinning pretty freely in my case. This is the tool that I use. It exactly fits Knipex 4821J31 with the angle one, and it exactly fits from underneath. You can remove it. Once you did that, I use the small pry bar, striking pry bar, and I hammer it 3 times from the inside of that granite, from underneath, to push the entire axle out, and it's popped out. So now I'm removing completely. Okay, and now you can see it. Okay, maybe right here will be better. So this is the half shaft. It connected to this drive axle, and this is the spot where I hammer it 3 times. Little marks. It's scratches basically when I hammer it out, and it came out completely. I was hoping it's going to get maybe unclicked right here between those two shafts, but it came out completely. On this end there is no lock and circlip, so it just slides out. Well, it's even better. And my bearing was not seized that much. It has a slight little movement under my finger, but nothing really critical, but it still has to be replaced. I can feel the movement. Anyway, now I need to separate those two shafts. So in some cases, if it's pretty rusty, you will have to put it in a vise and hammer it out with a air hammer, because it's seized on those splines. But in my case, I don't think it's going to be seized that much. I'm still going to apply some penetrating fluid, and then I will separate it with the two pullers that I have. Okay, so my shaft, or half shaft, this is the piece that called half shaft, came out fairly easy. I just had to hammer it 2 times. It was not seized on the splines, but if that would be a really hard to come out, and it would, if my shafts would be seized inside of this male, inside of female, I would use those type of splitters with the long bolts to push against each other, and it would separate it. But I didn't have to use it. I'm just showing you the example how you can do it in case if it would be seized. Other than that, it came out fairly easy, and it's just a locking C-clip right here that holding it, as long as there's no excessive rust. So now I'm going to pull out the actual bearing. Now I'm going to use this setup to pull the bearing. This is a bearing splitter. You just need to buy this extension, and hopefully it's gonna go easy. It came out really easy, as you can see. So now I'm going to clean it, and I have this piece of pipe that's supposed to fit this shaft, so I'm going to press it back, new bearing, gently, or hammer it down, I would say, because I don't have a shop press at home. Now, after I pressed in this new bearing into the same place, I clean splines on both ends with a little brush like this, and the brake cleaner, obviously. Then I use the anti-seize compound put on the splines, and remove the old C-clip and put the new one. Dealer sell them like for $2, I believe. Unfortunately, there is no part number. That's how it came. Maybe I'm going to add it later on to the down below the link, but it's not a round shape. That's how it's supposed to be, like an oval. So this one looks bigger somehow, but I hope it's going to fit. Now I'm ready to install it, this half shaft to this one, and then we'll be installing into the car. But I will not be doing that at the moment until I replace the motor mount, because I will have more room. This shaft will not be on my way, so okay. The actual C-clip fit perfectly, so it was good. Now I'm going to put new locking ring, and this is the part number. This is 0 before 55, just in case if it's erased a little bit. Okay, so it's only like $5 or so. I'm going to put it before I put two shafts together. Now after I hammer this one in with this mallet, I didn't want to do it with a metal hammer to avoid damaging splines here. So if you will have some movement on those splines, on a male and female, then you will have to buy this new shaft. This is like 280 bucks, I believe. It comes already with the bearing. But in my case there is no movement, everything is tight, snug, and no movement. Now if your bearing, original bearing, was moving inside of the oil pan, and you already checked that you can see actual wear from the race, outer race of this bearing, then if it's not critical, then you can put on this Loctite 660. It's a retaining compound, so couple drops on this outer race, be careful, and then install it into the casing so it will not be spinning inside of the oil pan. So this is pretty important to use if you've seen that there is some wear in your oil pan. Now when I'm saying oil pan, that's that hole right there where you pulled out the bearing. Just clean that place with a brake cleaner, make sure that it's all clean, and get closer, as close as possible to that hole, and inspect it if there is no excessive wear on the casing. Otherwise it's going to wobble that bearing inside and make vibrating noise, and you will need to replace the oil pan, unfortunately, if this is really too late in your case. I hope not, but yeah, that's how it is. So now I'm going to proceed with removing jacking up the motor engine on the left side, and proceed with removing the motor mount. So when it comes to removing motor mount, I just jacked up with a rubber padding underneath of the motor, and you can see that motor mount is here, but it's not coming through this hole. So, but it's easy coming from the other way, from underneath. So once I remove it, I'll show you, but maybe I can do it from here, because I'm holding camera in one hand. This is the motor mount, you can see, and yeah, I will need two hands to remove it. Anyway, I removed my motor mount. As you can see, it's wet from underneath and from the top slightly. I don't see any other leaks, so I'm assuming this is the motor mount that was leaking. Anyway, yes, it's possible to remove it without removing a steering shaft. There is enough room, as long as you remove the plastic cover from underneath of the vehicle. Now I put new motor mount back, and it's just a matter of tightening that middle bolt, which is would be the most hardest job between all of this, you know, replacement procedure. Fairly easy once you have a proper tools, and especially a jack that you can lift up one end of the motor, and yeah, there is lots of room, guys. You don't need to remove any steering shaft like other people showing. There's enough room. So I'll tighten this motor mount, and then I'll be installing drive shaft back in place. Okay guys, so little update here. I discovered that it's better to separate the actual drive axle from that half shaft with the bearing and install it that way on its own, instead of installing it two pieces together, because those two pieces are really long and it's not really convenient to install it all together unless you will remove this stabilizer bar, which is on your way a little bit, and maybe you will have more room. But I decided to install just a half shaft. Plus, it would be much easier for you to install the circlip ring. You remember on the beginning I was saying that I was using a bent pliers for removing it, but because you would not have a room for the straight ones to insert. But when it comes to install, now it's even more convenient because of you have this big opening right here. So but you would need a straight ones, as you can see. So I have a pair of them. This straight one is a part number Knipex 4811J3. This is a perfect fit, and you just go directly with your other hand and install it directly because you have a big opening right here. So this is the easiest way. Okay, so when it comes to installing this actual drive axle, once you put on the splines the entire axle, simply bang by the axle itself and it will click in automatically, but be gentle. Well, now it's just a matter of putting everything back in place. The traction control sensor, connecting the motor mount sensor, and installing the drive axle with all of the brackets, bolts. It's getting dark. I'm not gonna waste any more time of your time of watching this long video, but I will leave torque specifications down below the link. And well, it's all about 5 hours in total without having a car lift, and you know, really unique tools, I would say. Pretty generic, that's what I used, and I hope that was helpful for somebody. Okay, well, glory to God and glory to Ukraine. God bless you guys.